WYCD
HD3 Detroit,
KJAQ
HD3 Seattle,
WBMX
HD3 Boston,
and on AOL Radio and Yahoo Launchcast.
Okay, folks, we're back with Behind the Paranormal, and our questions for tonight: what's the current state of ghost hunting on the ground? What sort of people are getting involved with it, and what really goes on behind the scenes of those hot ghost hunting shows on TV?
Well, hey there, and welcome to the 92nd edition of Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. I'm Ben, and the voice you just heard was that of my co-host and partner in the paranormal, my dad.
Today, we're very happy to welcome back an old friend. Shane Sirois has been investigating haunted homes for 19 years. Even when he was a teenager, he already had first-hand experience with the paranormal more than most. He uses his first-hand experiences and knowledge to continuously help others. It is because of Shane's complete open-mindedness, drive, and experience that he has justified statements, including statements by me, calling him one of the best. He has been featured on television, radio, and newspapers in Boston and throughout New England, and he features in my 2002 book, Footsteps in the Attic. Shane's website is www.trueghost.com. Everyone is welcome to join the conversation today, of course. Our call-in numbers, and we're trying out our new toll-free number here tonight, 866-894-3141. That's toll-free from anywhere in the USA, or 248-545-SOUL, or that's 248-545-7685 from anywhere. Or if you're listening on a computer, use the nifty instant feedback feature to the right of your screen as you listen live.
I love that word, nifty. Well, Shane, welcome back to Behind the Paranormal.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
We're real good. Glad to have you back. Shane, you were on the November 7th Saturday morning show on our New England station, but we never really got a chance to finish that conversation. And we were talking about the current state of what is popularly known as ghost hunting, a term that I don't even like. I suspect it's a media term. I don't like it because, as I say, it trivializes the momentous. And so Ben's going to start us off today with a question.
All right. So, Shane, we see ghost hunters and alleged paranormal experts all over the place in every nook and cranny of the world. What's your opinion on the state of ghost research in the field today?
I think it's getting a lot better in certain areas, but I think, with the popularity of the shows, a lot of people are using the shows as a template, and they think, anybody can just jump in and do this stuff. And, if you use these shows as a template, then anybody really could. But so I think there's a lot of people going the wrong way or standing still, but there are some advances in, within certain individuals and groups. So I'm looking forward to, a lot of things coming forward. I mean, a lot of good things, a lot of good discoveries coming up, a lot of good people working on some interesting things.
So maybe we're a little too cynical.
Well, there's like I said, there's a lot of groups just following the same in the same footsteps, using these shows as a template, and I think it is a lot of it's really ridiculous and whatever. But I keep it positive. I keep track of what we're doing, and I'll tell you, I feel real good about the direction we're going.
Okay, good. Well, Shane, we got calling a little early, but our reporter Donna from Connecticut is calling in, and we'd like you to meet her anyway. Donna is not only a reporter for our show. We have about 4 right now, people who call in now and then with reports of paranormal goings-on in their respective geographical areas. But Donna also is an old friend of ours from a case we've been working on, Ben and I, since 2005. And this is this famous farmhouse, not too famous, I hope, because we don't want our house to become a tourist attraction. But this case that started out as a ghost case with us and has turned into something that has grown over the years into a sort of a, a potential major UFO flap, and also seems to be involving some properties. The whole area seems to be charged as what we would call it sort of a grand central terminal of the multiverse. The various worlds seem to be blending, crossing, intersecting, and all sorts of things on her property and in the whole area in general, and it's quite interesting. So, Donna, welcome to the show.
Hi, Paul.
Good. Well, meet Shane Sirois, our good friend.
Hi, how are you?
Good, Donna. How you doing?
Good.
Okay, we got a panel going here now. I think.
Okay.
So, what do you have to report to us this evening? We're going to get to Shane's reaction as well as Ben's and mine to all your very fascinating news. So, what do you got for us tonight, Donna?
Well, I could start out with a report that had been in our local newspaper yesterday regarding a case that a Connecticut paranormal research group in the northwestern part of our state had been working on, I guess. And it involved a home where a family had lived, mother, father, son, and daughter, and they began to get uncomfortable. I don't think this had gone on for a long period of time from the way it sounded, but they had been having problems with things like they would put their cat's bowl of water or whatever on a step, and they would go back to find it 2 or 3 steps down, and I guess nothing had been spilled or anything. It just moved down a few steps. And they had horses, and in the barns, when they went in the morning, the horses were removed from the stalls that they were in, and they were put into other stalls. The horses were never in the morning where they were put the night before, and no one in their family had gone back out or moved the horses or anything. They called the police. The police investigated. They thought it was maybe someone fooling around on their property or whatever, and they couldn't find anything, and finally they posted a police officer outside of the barn all night long. And in the morning, the police officer didn't hear or see anything in the morning. The horses were again in completely different stalls than what they were originally put in. So this investigative group went in and they investigated. They said they did get some voices on tape and things like that. After they had left, the family isn't reporting problems anymore. And that's basically what was in the newspaper as far as the gist of what was going on there.
Okay, let me give you my interpretation of that. Ben, jump in when you feel like it here,
Right.
And Shane too. This seems to now again, without having been there, without having done any research on it whatsoever, without having even read the story, this comes across as something that is very much like the Skinwalker Ranch case in Utah. Shane and I were talking about that before we went on. And for those who are not familiar with that, it is a case in Utah having to do with a ranch that had a history of not only paranormal activity, but extremely bizarre paranormal activity involving ghosts, poltergeists, UFOs, the whole thing that seems to be shaping up in your neck of the woods there, Donna, unfortunately for you because you're the homeowner. But,
right. Well,
yeah, it even involved moving cattle being in one place and then being found in the morning somewhere else. It's almost, chapter and verse like what you just described.
Right.
So,
well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we've had numerous. We've had actually reports. A few months ago, I found a steer in my backyard, and after calling,
you never told us that.
One of the farmers in our area said that he had cattle missing, and in this day and age, I mean, he lives on a rural road, and he was scratching his head because he didn't have any cars or traffic or any tire marks or anything backing up to his barn, and he was a local farmer, and he had just one of his cattle was just missing, and he put it in a pen. He had it with the other ones, and it was just gone. And just when you were talking about the cattle, I was thinking about that, and he came down to see if it was his, and of course it wasn't. And he did report to the police, and they never found it. So, it was kind of a mystery. It had been in a contained area near his home, and all of a sudden it was just gone.
Well, of course, there are many explanations for a number of these phenomena, but assuming that there is a paranormal explanation, especially where you are, it's rather simple in my opinion. Worlds blend, membranes, as the physicists would call it, cross. Whichever energy is stronger, that's where the cow ends up. If the cow is in one place in one world and another place in the other, they blend. The cow ends up in somewhere other than where he was in she was or it in your consciousness, that sort of thing. Shane, what's your reaction to all that?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with what you're saying, and I think there's an increase of that stuff going on too lately. As we talked about before, I mean, I have some friends down in Florida who I think they were telling me about they're dealing with the same thing with a ranch. Rich, Tammy, and Desiree, paranormal consulting agency or whatever, But I talk to them regularly. They're real good friends of mine. They're dealing with a ranch that has all kinds of crazy things going on with horses and whatnot right now.
Yeah.
But we've seen it, everywhere on every aspect.
Well, this is what we're seeing here. We just had an incident, and we have. I'm always talking about the cat incidents that we have. Now, we don't have cows here at the Maison Eno, but we have a couple of cats, and they seem to be able to apport themselves in and out of walls, or something puts them in different rooms and this sort of thing. We just had it.
No, it's just funny because
well, it is when you see
they
it.
just like appear like in the house, and like I didn't let you in. They're just there.
Well, there was one who was there was a room I had not gone into in 2 days, and our cat for one day was missing, and the cat turned out to be in that room. There's no way he could have gotten in. I'd seen him long after I had shut the door to that room and having gone in. Things like this occur. And again, my particular theory is that as we approach all this rigmarole, electromagnetic stuff that's supposedly going on in relation to 2012, or just happens to be taking place at that time, that the membranes are thinning and all sorts of weird things are starting to happen, and people who've never imagined the paranormal before are going to start to see things, and people are going to get scared. That seems to be happening. And Shane, you hit it on the head. You said things are increasing, and we agree.
Absolutely.
They are.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree. They're
go ahead,
increasing.
Don.
I've had more and more people, if they get a hint about what's going on in our home, if someone will make a comment in common company and someone will happen to know about it and the other person doesn't, and they'll say, well, I should tell you what happened to me. And it seems that it's just kind of, we have a lot of this going on in our area, and it's like you said with the UFO flap, people reporting them, it just seems to be picking up a lot.
Yeah. Okay, and let me just remind folks of our number here. We've got we're almost coming down to our break, but our number you better use the non-toll-free number, folks, because I guess Don is using the toll-free number 248-545-SOUL, or that's 545-7685 here on Behind the Paranormal. We're having a great discussion today with Donna from Connecticut, who's one of our reporters, and Shane Sirois from New Hampshire, tremendous ghost expert and hunter, and our good friend. Okay, so we're going to be talking as we go here about the state of ghost hunting, what's going on, certain cases that we're working on, and I want to get into also what's going on in those hot TV shows and what really goes on behind the scenes. And I think both of our guests today will have something to say about that. So we're going to be right back. Ben and I are here, and we'll be waiting for you, so stick with us.
The I'm Thankful Network for inspiration, education, and collaboration. Show host and creator Sue Lundquist has the endless energy, compassion, and charisma to carry her mission. This mission of positive change and communication, while also creating a maintenance tool within a safe environment, providing a resource of knowledge through dynamic professionals in the receptive fields. Dr. Patricia Nan Anderson and her show Parenting the Field Guide on Mondays 12 to 1 Eastern on The Sky. Listen in Boston on 98.5 HD3, Detroit 99.5 HD3, and Seattle 96.5 HD3. Online at newskyradio.com, AOL, and Yahoo Launchcast. The Sky. New Horizons, No Boundaries. Powered by CBS Radio.
I promise you the world again, and everything within my hands. All the riches one could dream, they will come from me. I hope that you could understand that this is not what I had planned. Please don't worry now, it will turn around. 'Cause I need more time, just a few more months and we'll be fine. So say what's on your mind, 'cause I can't figure out just what's inside. I hope that you could understand that this is not what I had planned. Please don't worry now, it will turn around.
Psychic Radio. We know you're listening.
Back to Behind the Paranormal.
With Paul and Ben Eno.
Our new number, 248-545-7685.
PsychicOnAir.com.
Okay, folks, Ben and I are back with our marvelous guest tonight, Shane Sirois, ghost hunter par excellence from New Hampshire, and Donna, our reporter from Connecticut, also the ringside seat holder to one of the most amazing cases we've ever dealt with, too. And we've been talking about several cases in Donna's area in central Connecticut, and Shane has been getting ready to comment on some of the shows that we've been dealing with, too. Now, Donna, you were talking about a case in Connecticut that was very interesting with a farm, and a film crew from a TV show turned up, right?
Yes, they did. They had gone in originally, I guess, with a film crew to film it. I don't know if their original perspective was to put it on a show for television show, but they had gone in. It apparently, it seems like with that reason.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Shane, tell us what happened with you. Without mentioning the network or the show, the routine. What happened with you with one of these shows? It gives an example of kind of what goes on behind the scenes.
Well, in this particular one, we got a phone call. It was in the fall or so, and we got a call from a production company. It was one of the producers, asking if we had watched, their show and our thoughts on it, and then another one, and
this is one of the big shows. Right?
One of the big ones, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they told us that they were looking to possibly replace the current team, and that we were one of the few that they were looking at. They liked, the way we presented ourselves and our information and whatever. So after talking with them a few times on the phone, they sent another producer out from New York. One of them was from Hollywood. The other one was from New York. Came up. We set up an investigation. They came in, pretty much, taped the whole thing, and really focused on us when we were speaking to the client. And the way we, it's pretty much an education that we give to fix the problem and also to keep the problem from getting worse. It's basically talking to the people and helping them to maintain the environment within their home.
Right.
So they really seem interested in that. They recorded all that. And then, we decided as a group that we wouldn't work with them anyway because we got them to admit that a couple of the shows that I questioned them on, they got pretty much to admit that they were fake.
Wow.
So we said, we're just not going to we're not going to work with people like that. We're not going to be misrepresented. And so, but anyways, what they did was they took all this wording, and it's almost like they use it as a training session because on the new series, they kept the original team, but they're also now using wording. And I mean, I don't know how many seasons this one did. There was multiple seasons, and they never once used that angle at all. It was always holy water and praying and holding hands. They never use an education, but they pretty much use the wording that we use and to talk to the client on this show. So it was kind of, just ripping us off and ripping off some of our theories. But, we held back a lot of our stuff, too, because we didn't want that to happen. We expected, something like that. And also, like I was telling you, too, I can't say for sure, but we have a notebook that we keep all kinds of notes, and we have a process of identifying trends within our investigations, and that's how we come upon some of the discoveries that we've come upon, and it's real important to do so. But we had one that goes back, 6 or 7 years, and it had various different case information and notes in that book. That's the last time that book was out, and the next time we go to bring it on investigation, I open it up to take some notes or to actually to put the name and the address and the date down, and I find everything's missing. Everything's missing. Everything's ripped out except for the case that we did with that TV show.
Wow. That's really circumstantial, but it's pretty damning.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we have Ben and I have one or two, Hollywood connections, and we hear through the grave. One of the guys is a producer of one of these shows, and he said, they've been catching members of the team trying to fake stuff and all this. I mean, it's not rampant. And then another thing they do, and Donna kind of mentioned this maybe as a possibility in this barn case, was that they rearrange the sequence of events to make it more dramatic.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's, I don't know. There have been one or two producers I've refused to work with because some people sometimes ask us, how come you're not on TV? Meaning Ben and me.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. And they even admitted to me that if they do chop up the tape, and they might be there for 3 days filming, and they chop it up and they rearrange everything to make it look the way they think that the audience wants to see it, and a lot of times it's not even close to accurate. It's so far from the truth that it's actually upsetting the people that lived in the home. The people that they want to investigate.
It just makes it worse.
Yeah, and what I'm saying, instead of taking information and taking other people's theories and trying to give them to people that don't have the capacity to understand and to use them, why don't you take the people you're stealing from and put them on the show? Because I'm not against the shows. I would love to have one myself, but let's give the audience the truth. I think that's what people need to see, and these shows are going to continue to go down the toilet until one of these production companies has the guts to put on some people that know what they're talking about, that are going after the mechanics, and not just Scooby-Doo type of stuff.
Well, I think that you hit it on the head, and it's tragic because the reality behind what we're dealing with here is so much deeper, so much more important than you can even get a hint of from some of these shows. I mean, we're not looking. I mean, the afterlife. This is way beyond that. Any kind of thing like that. I mean, and I don't want to embarrass my son, but I use him as an example.
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay. He goes into a case. I don't know what I'd do without him now. He goes into a case, as I say, we've been working together almost, since Donna's case began for us, and another one in Vermont. He walks in there. He can tell. I mean, he can communicate in a way that is way beyond psychic, I think. And what are the impressions you got of Donna's? I mean, you can smell danger a mile away.
Well, with the hole in the mirror, that was well, not the hole in the mirror, but the little
the portal
thing.
in the mirror that we have got photographs of. Yeah.
That then that corner.
Yes.
It always has to do with corners.
Yeah.
That black spot in the wall. All the people in the yard. Lots of things.
Yeah. Well, there was the trouble with seemingly parasites sort of keeping it up.
Yeah, that was the other thing.
Yeah, I didn't even pick that up. You picked it up right away. It's just so. I mean, that's the sort of thing we should be doing. We should be looking at the big picture. You're dealing with people from other times. Nobody's dead here, in my opinion. I'm convinced. And we have, and I'm going to read an email shortly from a fellow who was actually living this and realizing what he's actually dealing with. I mean, you're communicating with people from other times and other worlds. You're involved in time travel. You're involved in interplanetary travel. I mean, this is way beyond anything you're going to get on some of these shows.
Absolutely.
And this is what we're dealing with. Yeah, go ahead. You're the one who's in the middle of it, Donna.
When you genuinely live in a place like we do, you own a home like ours, it's something that cannot be summed up in an hour show.
No.
I've lived this for 60 years now. And the gamut of things that we have gone through that have no connection to each other in any solid way whatsoever, you can't explain it. You can't, like you've been, what is it, almost 5 years now, and it's
working on your case, and we're only just getting started.
Yeah, and it's you can't unwind it. You can't, it's not a simple case of boo. I mean,
exactly.
It's just so much more involved than that. And if you think that, like, an investigator comes in and they're, like, hit by it, you can imagine living in a situation like this where day to day, week to week, and it's so sporadic and it just takes you off guard and spins you around. It can't be explained in an hour.
No. Well, that's why you first contacted us, as I recall, because it didn't fit the standard campfire story category. It was way beyond that.
Yep.
And the stuff that's been found since, I mean, the photographs we've gotten. I mean, I wish we could spend more time there. I mean, we're in constant communication, but it's way beyond what people imagine, and it can teach us so much. And that's my point. This is what the background of our world is all about. And this you want afterlife. It's way beyond that.
Right.
All right. I'm going to read this email. Okay, now we read it on the Saturday morning show, but this is so important that it hit me, both of us, between the eyes so much that I wanted to share it again on this show because we have some different listeners. This is from Mark B. He asked not to use his full name, in San Diego. And, Ben, you want me to read this? Or is it?
You know what? You could go for it.
Okay.
You got this.
All right.
It's all you.
All right. I'm not quite sure how to write this because I'm scared, okay, and excited at the same time. I have read everything you have written and have listened to almost every show. Your ideas about the paranormal and its personal meaning for me is mind-boggling. Your ideas about parallel worlds have opened up the whole situation in the haunted house I have lived in for most of my life. And the people I had thought of as ghosts are learning too. They were afraid, but now we are actually exchanging ideas. I run into this all the time. People we think are ghosts are actually afraid of us because they think we're ghosts. My consciousness is changing. I am not only aware of several other worlds where my new acquaintances are living, but of at least 4 worlds where I am living parallel lives. I have a solid sense that it's all me and that I have grown, just like you said. But there are times when I feel I am losing touch with this conscious world where I have to live and work in what is so lightly called the real world. I thank you for opening the multiverse to me, but I have one question and concern. How do I handle this from here on? I do not want to be considered crazy as my consciousness expands. How do I keep in the multiverse and keep my feet planted in my conscious world? That's the $24 billion question.
I think it's more than that.
Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
No, I think it's more than $24 billion.
Right. More like the national deficit.
It's more, yeah. It's like $9 trillion.
But this is it. I mean, at what point this is what this ultimately leads to, is our own consciousness and how we live in the world, you know. And I don't know. I just Ben and I have gone through this.
Yeah.
You know, and you, especially you at your young age. I mean, I have taken it gradually over 40 years, but things are happening to you.
Well, I'm not gone through it yet. I'm going through it. So it's a process in the works.
Now, some of the PhDs we have on the show might say, aha, you're just dealing with a schizo, or you're becoming schizo yourself. Well, you know, as I've said many times, you know, when I worked in psychiatric hospitals as a grad student, I would look at these people who'd been diagnosed with schizophrenia. Were they having delusions caused by chemical imbalances in the brain, or were they experiencing real worlds? And a lot more psychiatrists and psychologists who will admit it ask the same questions. What say you two?
I've read your work also and discussed this a lot of times with you, and I think it's a case of sitting down, taking a breath, and the first thing you have to do is try to understand the scope of it. In my current situation, although I can appreciate and understand and I agree, I'm looking at these people and when I see them, like the man I was telling you about in my basement, and I'm thinking,
the half
going about
man.
his business in his time. And I walked in on him. We did have an experience here one time where something had crossed over and we scared it. So I know that they probably saw us as something to be afraid of. So there was a conscious moment between us. Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, I had a situation years and years ago. I was helping a friend replace some windows, and in this empty apartment. Well, actually, it was somebody who was living in it, but there was nobody home. And I'm banging on this window. It was the old type of windows with the weights that go inside the framing of the wall. So it was kind of jammed up from the years and years of accumulated paint, and I was trying to bang it out of the frame, and I'm making a racket. And all of a sudden, I can feel like a presence, like there's somebody in the room with me. And I turn around, and it was the lady's son's bedroom door, probably 15 feet away. There was a young man, about 18 years old, and I looked dead on, right in his eyes. But he didn't really see me. He was scared to death. I mean, he's looking around like, what's that noise? What's all that banging? And he was scared. But he was like looking through me. He didn't see me. He just heard all the noise and he was scared. First reaction was it's either an intruder or there's something going on. A lot of people, would have just said, hey, that was a ghost or whatever. I mean, I ran right into the room. Either way, I'm going to find out what it was. If it's an intruder, we're going to get him out of there. If it's something paranormal, I want to be right there. If it's a ghost or whatever, I ran right in. Windows are locked. Nobody's in there. I turn everything upside down. Nothing's in there. And my first thought was, you know what? I think I was that guy's ghost.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's what happened here too. We had someone sitting on the stairs. We could see it was a young person. We could see his elbow and his arm hanging off, and he appeared to be sitting on the stairs. And my daughter was chasing my son, and she chased him up the stairs. And it's like all of a sudden, just this massive racket.
Okay,
with the head
Donna,
of it
I got to
and-
interrupt you here. We're going to take a break, but
Oh,
we'll be
sure.
right back with our guests here on Behind the Paranormal.
Join Savannah for Soul's Journey with Savannah, nights from 10 to midnight Eastern. Savannah is an internationally renowned psychic medium. Savannah uses her mediumship abilities as well as powerful clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient skills in all of her readings. The wife of a New York City detective, mother of three, and psychic advisor makes for an eventful yet relatable life. And she will share that with all of you each Friday night, along with some interesting guests and powerful psychic readings for the listening audience. Soul's Journey with Savannah, Fridays from 10 to midnight Eastern on Psychic Radio. Now the Sky.
CBS Radio's The New Sky. Leave. NewSkyRadio.com.
Here's to the babies in a brand new world. Here's to the beauty of the stars. Here's to the travelers on the open road. Here's to the dreamers in the bars. Here's to the teachers in the crowded rooms. Here's to the workers in the fields. Here's to the preachers of the sacred words. Here's to the drivers at the wheel. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Now let the day begin. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Now let the day begin. Let the day begin. Here's to the winners of the human race. Here's to the losers in the game. Here's to the soldiers of the bitter war. Here's to the wall that bears their name. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Now let the day begin. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Let the day begin. Let the day begin. Let the day start. Hey! Here's to the doctors and their healing work. Here's to the loved ones in their care. Here's to the strangers on the streets tonight. Here's to the lonely everywhere. Here's to the wisdom from the mouths of babes. Here's to the lions in the cage. Here's to the struggles of the silent poor. Here's to the closing of the age. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Now let the day begin. Oh, here's to you.
Psychic in the City is a show about your world, your spirituality, and your future, delivered with fun, hip, and a modern flavor. Each week, your host, psychic medium Liz Sousa, will bring you informative and interesting guests from all walks of life. On the road, broadcasts to haunted locations and discussions on life, love, astrology, and dreams. Get your free readings with Liz Sousa, Wednesday afternoon at 4 Eastern and Friday 8 to 10 Eastern, right here on Psychic Radio. PsychicOnAir.com, powered by CBS.
Psychic Radio. We know you're listening.
Back to Behind the Paranormal.
With Paul and Ben Eno. Call now.
Our new number, 248-545-7685.
PsychicOnAir.com.
Okay, we're back Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben here. And our guests, we've got Shane Sirois, our wonderful friend from New Hampshire, who's a tremendous ghost hunter and a man with depth who gets it and knows what's going on in that field. And also, we're talking with Donna, our reporter from Connecticut. We did lose her, but we're going to try to get her back here from the studio. And Donna's talking about some cases in her area and also her own case, which has occupied Ben and I for several years. We're talking about the value of long-term investigations and some of the amazing things that you find. We're also talking about our concept of the multiverse, that this is what it's all about, different worlds converging. And these things not necessarily being ghosts in the classical sense, but being actual people in their own times and spaces and places and worlds at times, interacting with us much to their own fright as well as to ours. So, Shane, you're still with us?
Yes.
Okay. We got Donna back? No. Okay. We'll...
I'm back on.
Oh, you're back on. Very
back
good.
on.
Perfect timing. Okay. Okay, well, let's continue to talk about your case, too, and thank you to our producer for getting you back here. We have noticed all sorts of bizarre creatures, seemingly unrelated, as you say. I like the bouncing rectangle beings who seem to be very alien and have come through in your house. Can you tell us about them?
Yes, my daughter, as you know, lives in the house with us, and she had experienced it, and I had experienced it, and we hadn't really explained it to each other because we're so used to seeing everything going on around here. And one day she came in and she said, I've seen these I don't know what's wrong, these outside of my front door leaping up, and she said, you're going to laugh at me. She says they're these black, they have rectangle shaped like little appendages sticking up, and she said kind of a rounded top, and they're kind of straight across the bottom, and she said they're just like leaping up in front of my door. And I said, well, you know what, Michelle? I saw one against the door going from our side of the house, on her side of the house. We have a Dutch door there. I saw one there, and it was just like kind of motionless, but it was like there, and it had its arms up. And I said, I've seen them before, too. And she said, good, I'm not crazy. But we have been seeing these, and they are black, and they're so dark that you can't quite see through them. And they leap, and they leap up in the air, and they've been leaping up from the outside. We've seen them inside now, and it's what they seem to do. I've only seen one that hasn't been moving, and it was just kind of like against the door. And then the ones that are leaping up in front of the windows from the outside, and it's kind of scary. It's like if they're leaping up to look in or something,
Well, one of the questions that we're going to be discussing on our next show, our Saturday show with Dr. Rita Louise, is going to be the question of health issues with this. Now, we've run into people, I know Shane has too, who end up with chronic fatigue syndrome. Very often that's in parasite cases where they're literally, as the Babylonians called them, life-sucking ghosts. They're sucking your energy out of you. But, if you've got worlds crossing here, maybe even sometimes alien worlds interacting here. It's not just people. As you know, you got these, whatever these critters are jumping, you got this and that kind of a being. You got that now, in your case, now you got UFOs involved.
Well,
but the question is, what about alien microbes to which we have no immunity? Look at all these weird diseases lately.
We had a little being here who, for all intents and purposes, you would think was an elf. It had the kind of elongated ears, and it would come in down the hall at night and lean around the door like it was checking on us. And it was a little small person, like a little boy might be. And there was no children in the house, and it would just repeatedly come. We almost expected it. And we'd had a very elongated thing in the bathroom that looked like it was there where nothing should be because the vanity was there. But you look out at it, and it was just this long, skinny, elongated thing, with the long arms hanging down. So, I mean, it's been a variety.
Yeah. Now, Ben meditates in places like this in order to find out what's going on.
That dude that was just like, he meditates in haunted rooms.
Well, you blame me for it. It's actually, you're the culprit.
Yeah.
Tell us, I mean, I've developed so much confidence in you, I don't even question it anymore, but tell us why you do that and what the result is. I know, but to tell our listeners.
Well, I don't know. I just feel like I get a better feel of the room. It's like I become the room, and I know what's going on all over the house, and I become a part of the house, like I am the house, so to speak. And it helps me get a better feel of what's going on. Like one of our guests before said, Paul Devereux, all you have to do is just shut up and let the sight teach you, and it
I said that, not Paul Devereux.
No, he said that first.
Did he?
Yes, he did.
Oh dear, there's another one shot down. I wanted to see.
Yeah,
All right.
he said that first. He's like, I like that. I'm going to start saying that.
Okay, but I mean, it really does seem, and every case now that you go in on, I mean, you seem to be able to get a good handle on stuff because we take other steps naturally.
Oh, well, you came up with the shut up part, if that makes you feel better.
I did, yes. Okay. Well, I don't say. I'm too courteous to say that.
No, you say shut up and let the site teach you.
So let you shut up and let the site teach you.
So
yeah.
you came up with the shut up part.
Well, people will remember that. Okay, that's true. All right. So, but the point being that he's certainly done that in Donna's house, but he has a lot of protection. It seems that you can get away with this. I don't know if I'd be able to, but I do watch everything like a hawk, and I'm not going to put you in any danger, but I am impressed with your methods, and I think that because Ben understands what's really happening here, at least according to our belief system, he's able to communicate in ways that these creatures, at least the ones who are aware of you, seem to accept you.
I guess.
So far.
That's what I want to put it. I don't really know. I just sort of let things happen, and it just develops.
Well, it's awfully useful. Whatever is probably the best thing is you don't analyze it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, Shane, what is your interpretation of how does your group go in and deal with something like this? I'm sure you don't have anything maybe as dramatic as Donna's place, but what's your method?
Well, it depends on the situation, and I sometimes I like to just go in and not know anything, but that usually never happens because everyone's so willing just to give you everything right away.
Yeah, I run into that too.
Yeah, so so if we go in there with our general idea of what's going on, that's how I determine how we're going to go about it. But in a case like Donna's, where there's just all kinds of different things happening on many different levels, something that I haven't been able to ignore because like I said, the process of identifying trends, we found that over 90% of cases that have legitimate activity on different levels, like at Donna's, have water nearby. And I asked her on the break, and she did say, she has many different water bodies and rivers and streams and stuff near her home. So that's the area that when it comes to that. That's something that we're really starting to get into, and that's another area that a lot of these TV networks have been trying to pick our brains on too, and kind of steal some of our ideas on that. But we did happen upon a pretty good discovery on that I haven't shared with anybody yet. But I'll tell you, I would love to take a visit to Donna's if I was ever invited. That'd be great.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure. And I don't want to speak for Donna, but I'm sure. You're one of our best friends, and I trust you like I trust none of the others. And we'd certainly like to have you along. Well, if you want a real riot, try water bodies and high tension wires. We've had a number of cases with high tension wires, and of course these, everything in the material world, and apparently everything in the multiverse, is based on electromagnetic energy. That's the glue, that's the power source, seemingly. And when you mess around with that, which water can do and high tension lines can do, then you get all sorts of fireworks sometimes, So, okay, let me share with you another email here while we still have some time. And I'd like to get everybody's reaction to this. This is from Marilyn in Winchester, Massachusetts. I guess the great WBMX in Boston listener. Paul, I know you sometimes warn people against ghost hunting, but I don't think you do so strongly enough. I'm a mother of 2 and was stupid enough to join a ghost hunting group and bring my kids along because they were interested in it. My son ended up obsessed and had to be treated by a psychiatrist for depression and schizophrenia. Please do more to stress the dangers. What say you two to that? I mean, given what we're talking about with all these alien worlds. I mean, this is real, and this is what can happen.
I think depending on the age of the children, we were raised in it from the time we were babies. The ghost part of it, or whatever you want to call it, the haunting, the experiences that we've had. So were my children, and it just became an acceptance in a way of life. But if it's something you don't have a basic background in, or something that you haven't up until that point been interested in, I think it could become obsessive.
Well, because I'm sitting here next to my 17-year-old son who got involved when he was 13. But perhaps, I don't know, perhaps you could say the same as Donna did when you grew up with it.
Yeah, and I just don't really find any problem with it. I have other problems to worry about.
Yeah, well, you're a natural, in my opinion, but I think it's quite true. I mean, people, you have to. I don't know. I'm sure Shane would agree here. There has to be a certain amount of spiritual maturity,
Right.
here, and I think that's what you don't see in a lot of these television shows.
Right.
No,
yeah,
I think it's for rate. I think a lot of it's for
Okay.
ratings. I
Oh,
think a lot
I'm
of it
afraid. Oh, afraid we got to wrap it up,
Oh,
and
okay.
we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back on Behind the Paranormal.
From our universe to yours, this is listening. Log on to psychiconair.com.
Whispers from the Heart Radio. Join the best psychics, mediums, holistic experts, and visionaries of our time. Thursdays at 8 o'clock Eastern on The Sky. Listen live as international psychic medium Erica Busarhaney brings you cutting-edge guests that educate, stimulate, and rejuvenate your body, mind, and spirit. At Whispers from the Heart Radio, we bridge your heart with the spirit world. Whispers from the Heart Radio, Thursdays at 8 on The Sky. New horizons, no boundaries. Powered by CBS Radio. Listen live at WYCD HD3 Detroit, WBMX HD3 Boston, and KJAQ HD3 Seattle, and on AOL Radio and Yahoo Launchcast. Join Savannah for Soul's Journey with Savannah, nights from 10 to midnight Eastern. Savannah is an internationally renowned psychic medium. Savannah uses her mediumship abilities as well as powerful clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient skills in all of her readings. The wife of a New York City detective, mother of three, and psychic advisor makes for an eventful yet relatable life. And she will share that with all of you each Friday night, along with some interesting guests and powerful psychic readings for the listening audience. Soul's Journey with Savannah, Fridays from 10 to midnight Eastern on Psychic Radio. Now The Sky.
CBS Radio's The New Sky. NewSkyRadio.com.
Psychic Radio. We know you're listening. Back to Behind the Paranormal
With Paul and Ben Eno.
Our new number, 248-545-7685.
psychiconair.com.
Okay, Ben and I are back with our guests, Shane Sirois of New Hampshire, tremendous ghost hunter and good friend of ours, and Donna, our reporter from Central Connecticut, also the center of an amazing case that Ben and I have been working on for several years. Okay, everybody, as we wrap up here today, and I'm sorry to do so because this is such a great conversation, another email here that is of a matter of concern, I think, too. It has to do with ghost hunting, and it is from Donnie J. in Detroit, Michigan.
All right. This question is for all of you. I would like to ghost hunt, but I'm afraid of bringing something back home with me, like a demon. Is that possible, and how come it doesn't happen to all ghost hunters?
Take it away, whoever's ready. Shane?
Well, not me yet.
Yeah.
No, it's Donna wants to go first. I want to be a gentleman, so.
Yeah.
No, he can go.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, like we've talked about this before, and that's always a question everyone wants to, ask, and that can happen. And usually when it does happen, it's because the person went in there with a lot of fear, and that within their internal dialogue, kind of obsessing about that something might follow them home, and they're really afraid of it, and that's kind of like ringing the dinner bell, as Paul you would say, or waving a flag. You become a target. So with the proper education, that takes away that risk, and so people should, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say on my part, we've never ever tried to communicate with anything in our home on any personal level whatsoever. It is what it is, and we let it go at that.
That's our advice to anyone we're working with on a case. I think Ben is in a sort of has a unique talent, that sort of thing. But then again, I mean, he knows, and I know, and Shane knows, and Donna knows. You don't take these things at face value. You don't assume that what you're being told is true if you're being told anything at all. But again, we're always looking into this. I mean, there are truths to be found. The question here too, which I would respond to the email here from the fellow in Detroit, is it depends on a number of factors, including the species of the parasite, if it is a parasite. In my 40 years of doing this, I've identified maybe 9 different species of these things. And some are nastier than others. Some are very, for lack of a better term, they give you the impression of being very wise in a dark sense of the word. In other words, that they know what they want and they know what buttons to push to get it. And what it is generally energy for their food. These are living beings. They're not demons or dead people or anything. They're just living creatures from somewhere else or somewhen else in this multiverse, and they are hungry and they are hostile, and they are not our friends. And that is what we find. So do you bring any home with you? Well, generally, there are enough around in the environment as it is. However, there are some who do not seem to be attached to a particular place. Some are, because maybe sometimes high-tension wires and bodies of water. Or they've been attached to families for generations and found that. Or there are a few that can seem to follow you. There are one of the things that I really get concerned about is when I'm in contact with other investigators or someone who's perhaps involved in some sort of questionable religion or something that's a cult, and they have parasites attached to them, and they're thrilled to death about it. I mean, what do you do in that situation? So it is possible to bring things home, and the best advice is not to do it. Okay, and I've said this several times on the air. I've been at conventions for new ghost hunters and people who want to learn how to do it, and they'll sit there with their mouths open as I tell them not to do it. And it never occurred to them not to do it. They'll send me emails or Ben sometimes about how do you do it? Where should I do it? Where's the best? But that never should I do it. And that's the problem. Okay, so I'd like to get we're coming down to the wire here, and I'd like to get a last word from both our wonderful guests. Donna, I'll let you go first.
Well, I think that, like you were just talking about, it's best to leave it to people who understand it and have the fortitude and the strength, whether religion or, whatever, to handle this. I don't believe that people should try to communicate. I think it's foolish. I think you can direct a lot more negative energy towards yourself and your family. And that's why I would never try to communicate with anything here. I'll keep calling in and reporting if I hear anything, and certainly give you updates on what's going on here, though.
Oh, great. Thanks so much. It's great. It's great just to know you. I mean, you're such a wonderful person.
Oh, thank you.
And to have you helping us out this way, we really appreciate it. We'll be in very close touch very soon.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Shane, our good friend, what's your final word to our listeners tonight?
Yeah, I mean, well, in regards to that email, if people want to communicate with it, I mean, it's not a good idea without the full understanding. And even there's very little people that really could grasp the full understanding. But if you just looking to communicate, I wouldn't do it because you don't know what you're going to get.
Absolutely.
You could get anything, and I'll tell you, some of these things you can't be prepared to deal with.
Absolutely. Well, Shane, I'm afraid we're out of time here. I wanted to thank you so much for being with us, our good friend, and we'll have you back real soon.
All righty.
Okay, be talking to you.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. So many thanks to our producer, Will Kosnick, and we'll see you right here next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on CBS Radio and PsychicOnAir.com. And we'll welcome researcher and author Lloyd Pye, and our theme, Human Origins. Everything you know is wrong.
You really love that quote.
I love that quote. I wish I'd said it. I use it all the time, but I always credit Lloyd for it.
All right, and check out our Saturday show at 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific on WOON 1240 AM radio.
And as if that weren't enough, you can hear rebroadcasts of Behind the Paranormal on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, right here on CBS Psychic Radio.
So you pretty much just can't get rid of us.
Can't get rid of us on weekends anyway. And we'll leave you for today with a thought from our good friend Albert Einstein. Quote, "Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. The latter cannot understand it when a man does not thoughtlessly submit to hereditary prejudices, but honestly and courageously uses his intelligence." Ben, what's your last thought today?
My last thought? Well, I'm just trying to chill out. I'm really tired. I'm probably going to go to bed.
Okay, well, what did Sherlock Holmes say?
What a universal answer to all questions, sleep.
Yes, he said sleep is the universal answer to almost every problem.
Too bad it doesn't help you finish papers.
No, you got a paper to do?
No. I'm just saying.
You almost slipped. Okay.
No.
Well, let Mom catch you. All right. Anyway, so...
See you next week.
On Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno.